Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Abacus Free Training Thursday. Today's topic is how to have a nice, calm, peaceful year end, or how not to have a bad year end. Anyway, my name is Perry Lafferty, and I'll be your host today as we go through my presentation here. Hopefully, you all can see my screen. This is a more of a kind of a listing of what we're going to be looking at here. It's not so much, moving around in the program too much. So maybe just taking notes will be a good thing. There is a section of your GoToWebinar panel where you can type in questions. All right, so that's what I'll be coming back to see if we do have questions at the end of our session. Obviously, we have a short amount of time here, so I'm going to jump right in. First things first, for everybody attending today, the thing you want to know is you do not, and I mean do not, want to close your year in December, okay? You do not want to close your accounting year in December. To tell you the truth, you really don't have to close your year at all. But there are a few reasons why I think you should. But we don't really want to think about doing this until after every tax return has been filed and your accountant has given you every possible journal entry that needs to be entered for the 2018 year. Okay? So, with that being said, what should we think about, okay, in the month of December? Obviously, we're a couple weeks early. I'm hoping to get the jump on this, right? Start thinking about what I need to do in December. Well, if you would like your productivity reports, your billing reports, in other words, to include December, you're going to want to go ahead and do your client billing and post those bills with a December date. Okay, so when you do your billing, cut it off as the end of December, post with the end of December date, and then your accounts receivable reports will reflect your December billing. So we just got to make sure we cut it off as of the end of December and post with the end of December date. Okay, that'll take care of accounts receivable. Now, for accounts payable, now, this is, I should actually interject here, this is whether you're running cash or accrual accounting, all right? This works for both because Abacus is kind of like a modified cash system because you do have an accounts receivable schedule and you do, of course, have an accounts payable schedule. So either basis for accounting works. So we got our billing done. Now, as far as payables go, and this is really what your accountant's going to want to see, is you want to get all your payables in the system. Now, that doesn't mean you have to pay everything. No. We want to get them in there so we know what was due, okay? So you want to enter them through your two-step process here. You enter them through enter and post payables, and then you're going to print the checks when you're ready with Print AP. But as long as you get them in here and you get them posted, they will be on your payable schedule, and then you will have that to give to your accountant when it's time to calculate taxes. All right, so those two things are the biggies. You can see I've got all these in here I need to post. All right. Also, you're going to have your work in process reports, okay? That's more on the billing side. That is listed here in your productivity reports. If it were me and I wanted to kind of take a snapshot of all the work that had been entered by that wonderful last day in December, or the tickets had been dated that wonderful last day in December, you get them in and then they will come through to the WIP report. Okay, so you want to run a work in process report and with the date of 12/2018, and then you'll have everything up through that date, as long as it's been input into the program. You know, there's no magic here. We have to do the work to get it going. Okay, now, what I think might be a good idea is to go ahead and print out your trial balance in the month of December and see if there's any irregularities. Okay, does anything look weird? So where is your trial balance? course, it's in your general ledger reports down at the bottom here. And it's actually the last one on the GL reports. But this way you can get a step on whether everything's in balance. And in balance, when we're talking accounting, there's always two different kinds of balance. You're in balance with the bank, and your books are in balance. Okay, books being in balance means your debits equal your credits. So you want to print out a trial balance through the end of the year and see what comes up there. If you're in, and let's just see what's going on with mine. I'm actually going to, let's see, it hopefully won't take too long here. That's pretty good. You want to be sure that the bottom numbers, the debits, equal the credits. Okay, if they don't, ooh, looky there, I've got something going on there. Then you're going to want to go in and start searching. Why? Why is this thing out of balance? And that's where I go back and start using my little analytic brain cells that say, okay, let's print it every month and see which month we go out of balance by. Then I know I got to go research that month. And how do you research that month? I like using this journal activity. That's the tool you can use for your general ledger to start digging around and seeing if you do have an issue, what is it? Because when you bring up your journal activity, this is kind of saying, okay, how do we want to look at all this good stuff? Do we want to do it by date? Well, you always include a date range, all right? But you also can pick other options. If there's something you're out of balance by, maybe you can look for that dollar amount, and it will bring up everything within your date range that is for that dollar amount. Now, I don't really know what I have in here, but let's just try. Oh, I have a lot of $1,000 entries. So you could pull it up by amount, or you could pull it up by description, and that would kind of be, what you're looking for. Show me everything that has the word rent in the description between this date frame. Okay, that had something to do with something. Okay, you could do it by account number. A lot of people do it by account number. So you can look up any account from your chart of accounts. So yes, we use this a lot for the cash account. Bring up my operating account. Let me see what's going on. But remember, you can look at any particular account in here and see everything that's been going on within the date range that you've chosen. So, okay, what's in meals and entertainment? Okay, I only have a couple things in there. But this is letting you dig into your books to get to the details and find out what's going on. So that's one good tool. Okay, let's see here. Just to reiterate it again, here's where the year-end closing is. And the biggest thing here is if you close your year and you didn't mean to, we cannot unclose it. Okay? I can back out of a closing of a month. That's nice. Abacus gives us that ability. But you cannot back out of a year-end closing. So we want to be absolutely sure before we do this. And yes, it's not supposed to be scary, but it gives you lots of warnings here. It actually used a flash, which was a little obnoxious, but it's telling you, please, before you do this, please make sure you have done all your bank reconciliations, meaning you got to get December done before you close the year. You want to print out all your reports. Yes, I know everybody likes the digital copy, but you may just want a physical copy as well. Okay. And you want to make sure you have a backup. Okay. Let's see. Somebody's having trouble with their audio. Can you call in on your phone line? If your Wi-Fi went down, perhaps you can call in on the phone line and enter your access code. That should be in your invitation. Okay. This also is going to be available for you. Okay. I know Amanda will have it available and let you know how to download it after. So hopefully, you'll be able to get to it. So anyway, back to our year-end closing. So it's telling you, please make sure you do these things. The biggest thing on here for me is making a backup of your program as well as the data. Now, those of you on the APC service, okay, Abacus has a backup. That's cool. You don't have to worry about it. But if you're not using the Abacus private cloud, you're definitely going to want to get a backup of the program with the backup of the data. Okay, usually everybody just backs up their data all year long. There's not a real need for it. But if you think about it, Abacus changes a little bit. Okay, I know they just came out with a new release the other day, or maybe it was today. I know I haven't downloaded it yet, but you want to make sure you've got that version of the program that goes with the version of the data. Now, we always try to make sure you could access any old data in the latest release, but just to be safe, I would have that backup, put it at the bank in your safety deposit box or whatever, and if the IRS ever comes in and you have to go through an audit, you install the program as well as the data onto a computer, and that way you can get in there and just mess around in that data, and you're not having to depend on something 7 years from now. Okay, because we know they have 7 years to come in and talk to us. Okay, so that's where year-end closing is. Obviously, when you're going to do it, you should close year by year, 1 year at a time, doing a backup in between, of course. If you have not closed years ever and you want to close them, okay. Let's get over here now. So we talked about we have to get our bank reconciliations done. If you're using Abacus to do your bank recs, you want to make sure you get December done. Also, when you go in to do it, you may see old outstanding checks and or deposits. Well, December's the perfect month to try to research some of that with all this extra time we have, because nothing happens in December, and get back to our tax accountant saying, okay, well, this outstanding check really should be voided, even with trust. Do we need to refund the trust monies? What is it we have to do? So try to do some research into outstanding checks and outstanding deposits. Okay. The big one, if you are going to do the closing in Abacus, okay, you're going to tell Abacus to close the year. What happens? What happens when Abacus does the closing? Well, it goes through and summarizes every account on your chart of accounts. Okay? Then it takes the difference between your revenue and your income, and it comes over and it's going to make an entry into your default GL account. Okay? It's going to come over and use whatever account is sitting right here with profit/loss. So it's going to put that entry in there for you when you close the year. All right. Then it takes all those accounts down to just a beginning balance so that you can start your new year. All right. So that's what the program will do. So, of course, we want to make sure our profit-loss account here, the one we've chosen from our chart of accounts, is the one you want to have that number dumped into. Okay? You do want to look at this, by the way, because I believe most of everybody got a program where Abacus retained earnings is the same number as profit and loss. And if you've been keeping your books in Abacus, you may want to have a separate account per year for that profit loss. Otherwise, it's all together in the big number that's in retained earnings. And we all know retained earnings is all the year's profit and or loss combined together. So I've seen firms that have a separate account per year so they can easily look at their trial balance and say, oh, well, last year we made this much. Year before that we made, less or more or whatever. So that's right here. You're going to want to make sure that you have the account set up in your capital or equity in the threes. Okay, the account starts with a 3. Okay, let's see what else I got here for my little pointers. Okay, now I like my reports. I feel like I did all the work all year. Somebody needs to look at my reports, all this work I've done. So I'm going to, some people say, well, give me the top 5 that you'd print. Well, first of all, I print them all. Okay, I'm sorry. Everybody likes something a little different. So maybe this boss likes it better looking like this versus that. So I would come in here and I'd print out every general ledger report there is. If you have to make me pick 5, I would pick the balance sheet. Okay, I would pick the trial balance. That's 2. I'd pick the income statement. That's number 3. Then I would pick these 2 journals, if you would. your general journal listing, because that is every journal entry one at a time. Okay, so if you are out of balance on your trial balance, this is the first thing I come look at. Okay, because it says how much is the debit and how much is the credit. All right, for every journal entry that's done in the date frame that you have selected. So you come down and you can easily look at the bottom entry of each of the transactions and make sure it is in balance. Okay, so that's one way of looking at your books. The second way is called the general ledger detail listing. And this is every account starting at the beginning. So obviously it's going to start most likely with your operating account and move down from there. And it shows every entry in every one of those accounts with the date frame that you've chosen. Okay, so it's going to look something like this. Oh, look at there. She'll love it. Okay, well, that was great. But believe me, it's going to take every account off that chart of accounts. The trial balance is the last number, right? The accumulation, the adding and subtraction of all the numbers, and you've got the total, right? Your general ledger detail is every single entry. And that's really what the tax accountant wants to look at anyway, to make sure we've classified all of our transactions properly. Okay, I'm just kind of rattling on here. I have more, but I want to make sure we get to questions. All right, let's see if I can do this. Come bring the questions out. Is the WIP information you previously talked about simply time that has been posted to the accounting program but not invoiced to a client yet? Exactly. Work in process. Okay, so it's time that's been either entered in law and moved over to billing, or time that was just entered in billing, and costs. Okay, so it's going to have both your fees and your costs on there. All right, so that's what the WIP report is. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see if I can get to this question. I would love to know why we can't put these out. Okay, let's go up here. All right, that may be the only question we have at the moment, besides the poor folks that aren't able to hear. Like I say, we will have this up for you to be able to download so that you can listen through it again. Okay. Will there be a video to watch for this since I can't hear anything? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay. So those are the big 5 reports. But like I say, why not print them all? You did all the work. Let's see what you get, because some people are amazed. Oh, my goodness, look at that. I didn't know I could see that report. That'll be great for next year. Also, besides GL, you want to print your trust reports. So in trust, at the bottom are the trust reports. Here, my mandatory 2 are the trust report detail and the trust report summary. Okay, now let me make sure everybody's calm here. When you close your year, nothing happens to trust. It does not delete any entries from trust. You still have every single entry that's ever been done in trust. The trust ledgers never are touched, as are the billing ledgers are not touched. All we're talking about here when we close a year is strictly the general ledger. Okay? So I still like those trust reports, though, to put away, those schedules to put away with all of everything else I have, so that I could always prove to any auditor that I knew exactly whose money was whose in trust, not that the account just balanced to the bank. You know, we want to know who. So the trust reports are also a good thing to do. Also, sometimes folks don't think about this, but the write-off report. Now, that one's tucked away over here. Let me see if I can find it. If you are doing client write-offs during the year, or come December, oh boy, it's fun. Let's go write off everything we need to write off. The write-off report, make sure it's here before I open my big mouth. There it is, the write-off report. That's going to show all write-offs that you did through cost and adjustments. So you came in here to do your write-off. And when you were in here, the code you used was a write-off code. So down at the bottom under the W's are all my write-off codes. So if I used if I wrote off hard costs or soft costs or late charges or fees or sales tax, that all will be on that write-off report, and that write-off report is in the matter reports. Now, I'm not going to say I am not a tax accountant. I like my hair. I like not having it all pulled out of my head, but your tax accountant may be able to do something depending on how they record your revenue. So if you have these write-offs, that'd be something to offer to the tax accountant to say, hey, look, I had to write this off, but I did the work, or we paid the cost, so what can we do on the tax return? So write-offs is a report some folks forget because it's kind of not with the rest of them. It's off there. Bonuses at year end. That big one, the report people seem to use a lot for that, is under productivity. Okay, and it's called the Timekeeper Cash Receipt Report, because this is going to show as the cash receipts came in other words, as client payments were entered and posted, it updates this report and shows who got credit for the work done. Now, hopefully before right now, that, when you input a payment, that's when the fee distribution is done. This is a report showing that fee distribution. Okay, maybe we're going to think about next year thinking, hey, well, next year I'm going to make sure every client payment's input correctly and the appropriate people get credit for it. But it goes through and basically, says who did the work, what date, what matter was it on, and, summarizes it. So here again, you can use this for bonuses. Okay, well, let's see. We got 5 minutes left here, so please type in questions if you have them. I'm going to keep looking through my notes here and seeing if I can find anything else here. What really happens? Why should you close your year? What is the best reasoning for that? The best reasoning is so that nobody can go in and manipulate the books from a previous year. Okay, once you close your year, you will not be able to access that time frame again, except to look at archived records. So it doesn't just all disappear, but you cannot adjust it. You can't open it. You can't change anything, of course, because that year is closed. And, we don't want somebody by accident going in and putting in a journal entry or writing a check or putting in a client payment with a previous year. Okay, because that would totally mess up last year's books. So that's the biggest reason why I do say close your books, but don't do it until at least the end of April. Okay. Also, your tax accountant should give you closing entries. There's depreciation to be done, right? So that's going to change numbers on your assets and, everything else. So we've got to get those entries in here. And believe me, they're not all magically going to be done on January 1st. You got to give them a little time and space to get all that work done and get it back to you. Then you can enter them and then close your year after all tax returns are filed, so we don't have to redo something for the government. Okay? Okay. Let's see here. See if I can find any other questions in here. Is there a report for 1099s? There's one I didn't think about. Thank you much. Okay. Under reports, there are the 1099s and the 1096. Obviously, the 1096 is a summary of all the 1099s. In order to have the 1099s be processed or to have the vendor included in that process, you have to make sure your vendors have the option turned on for a 1099. So let's quickly look at that. File, Setup, all the way down to the vendors. Okay, I'll just take this first one. Let's make sure he's in accounting. There we go. We'll take this one, edit it, and on your account information tab. So in other words, you open up the vendor, go to account information, and it's this little box right up here at the top on the right. Year end 1099. That means I want to print a 1099 for this vendor. Okay? If this vendor is providing legal services, you want to check that box as well, because that's another box on the 1099, right? And your federal ID number. Okay? That also goes on the 1099. If it's a person and not a company that you're processing a 1099 for, that would be their social security number. And I should mention, because I saw this today, the latest version out there, which is for accounting, it's 23, 25, 21, I believe, does have the 2018 1099s. So you are going to want to download that so you could process them, because every year they change, the forms change, and so we have to keep up with that. So make sure you get that download. To get your download, your update to the system, you're going to want to talk to tech support. I believe the number is 800 488 3334. Okay. Okay. Let's see if I can find any other questions in here. I don't see any others, but of course you could submit questions to webinars, I believe it is, at abacusnext.com. Amanda, if I'm wrong, please correct me, and I will get those questions and be happy to answer them for you. Is there a way to link all this to your QuickBooks? Not really, no. Okay, Abacus Accounting is kind of instead of QuickBooks. Okay. One thing more I should mention, because you just brought that to my mind, that if you did have a cutover mid-year, your 1099s, you're going to want to make sure that down here at the bottom, for purposes for the 1099s, is that you have in here the balance that you did in QuickBooks or another program, and now you're using Abacus. So this dollar amount needs to be added to whatever is processed through Abacus. So in other words, if the first 6 months of the year you were using QuickBooks, bring over the total that you spent with this vendor and put it in here, and then that will be added to the dollar amount that is dispersed through Abacus, and both of them go on one 1099, because technically the fact you change books or accounting systems programs should not matter. You should only give the vendor one 1099. Okay. All right, guys. Well, let's see. I think that's all the questions I can see right here, right now. But please, if you have more, submit them, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. Otherwise, hey, this is November. You guys are way ahead of the game, because you're not closing your books on December 31st. So thank you all once again, and have a lovely afternoon. Okay. Bye-bye.